Think ancient Greece was always a paradise of marble temples and brilliant philosophers? Think again. In 600 BC, the entire Mediterranean was trapped in a brutal cycle of blood feuds, debt slavery, and elite chaos. But then a few radical thinkers pulled off a secret social experiment that completely rewrote human history. Here is the catch. It wasn't peaceful. Welcome back. Today we're tearing down the myths. We are looking at what it was actually like to live in a Greek city around 600 BC. This wasn't a world of quiet statues. It was a world of raw political violence, family warfare, and high-stakes poetry. By the end of this video, you'll see how early humans escaped tribal chaos and invented the modern city. More importantly, you'll see why our current society is still using their exact blueprints. Now, I've spent years analyzing ancient texts and archaeological data. Most history books sanitize this era. They make it sound like a natural progression, but the records show it was a desperate, razor-thin gamble against total collapse. Let's look at the real story. Think of it this way. Early Athens didn't start with democracy. It started with a blood curse. Around 630 BC, a popular Olympic victor named Kylon tried to seize the Acropolis to become a tyrant. He failed. He ran to a sacred statue for protection. The local magistrates promised him safety, then slaughtered his followers anyway. But it gets worse. That single act of violence cursed an entire elite family, the Alkmaionidai. For decades, citizens used this curse to score political points and exile their rivals. Politics wasn't about ideas. It was about family tribes killing each other in the streets. The law was failing. Enter a man named Solon. He was an elite poet, but he saw the system was broken. The rich were so greedy they were selling poor citizens into foreign slavery for debts. Now, why does this matter? Because Solon realized he couldn't stop the violence with weapons. He had to use words and laws. He wrote poems that attacked the greed of both the rich and the poor. He positioned himself right in the middle. In his own words, he was like a wolf surrounded by many hounds. Here is the turning point. The desperate citizens gave Solon absolute power to fix Athens. He didn't build an army. He built a legal framework. First, he banned loans secured by the human body. No more selling neighbors into slavery. Second, he allowed any regular citizen to bring a lawsuit on behalf of someone else. If a warlord bullied a poor peasant, a third party could step in and sue the warlord. But it didn't stop there. Solon drew up hyper-detailed property lines. He wrote laws stating a wall must be 1 foot from a boundary, an olive tree must be 9 feet away, a beehive must be 300 feet from a neighbor's hive. Later writers laughed at these details, but Solon knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to make obedience simple so elite families couldn't cheat each other. Let's pause here. If you are enjoying this deep dive into hidden history, hit that subscribe button right now. We trace the ancient origins of the modern world every single week. Back to the story. While the men were fighting in the courts, another shift was happening behind closed doors. The ancient symposium was an all-male drinking club. Poets like Simonides wrote vicious verses comparing women to pigs, foxes, and mud. They claimed women were a source of shame and ruin. But this was a desperate attempt to maintain control. Outside the drinking halls, women were building massive parallel social networks. Think about the poetry of Sappho or the Homeric hymn to Demeter. These texts revealed intense bonds between mothers, daughters, and female communities. Women dominated the massive religious festivals like the Thesmophoria and the cult of Dionysus. While elite men focused on political survival, female society was preserving human empathy and religious ritual. Now let's look at the physical proof. The revolution wasn't just happening in Athens. Look across the sea to new frontier cities like Thasos, Metapontion, and Megara Hyblaia. These weren't quiet farming villages, they were hyper-planned boomtowns. Take Megara Hyblaia in Sicily. By 600 BC, the citizens did something radical. They stopped building messy clusters of huts. They laid out strict geometric street grids. Every citizen got an equal plot of land. They pushed their cemeteries far outside the town limits. They built massive public porches called stoas around a central market, the agora. Look at Metapontion in Italy. Around 600 BC, the original native and Greek settlement burned down. Instead of just rebuilding, they constructed a massive wooden meeting place that could seat 8,000 citizens. They divided the entire surrounding countryside into perfect parallel lines. They mapped citizen equality right onto the face of the earth. What does all this mean? By 600 BC, Greeks everywhere stopped living just for their immediate families. They started living for the community. They traded tribal loyalty for civic identity. They built monuments, designed grids, and locked themselves into a system of laws. It was the birth of the citizen. This fragile transition from tribal chaos to the rule of law is exactly how our modern cities survived. But the story doesn't end with grid lines and stone laws. Once these cities stabilized, the elite found terrifying new ways to compete for absolute power. To see how these new citizens built the world's first true democracy out of a bloody revolution, subscribe for more videos like this.